South Alabama drops App State in Boone. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, we will go over we'll preview the weekend's action coming up. 6 Sunbelt versus P4 squads, and Troy and Southern Miss need wins badly. Meanwhile, didn't see that one coming. Not whatsoever. I did not see South Alabama going into Boone and embarrassing the App State Mountaineers. Didn't think it was going to happen. I don't know if I took the win over Northwestern State and all the points that they had lightly, but I took it for what it was. It was an impressive win against a lesser opponent. 87 points is still 87 points. All right, we should take that into account. But nonetheless, I did not see this happening. And don't make any mistake about it. This was not a bunch of turnovers, although there was one really big turnover that maybe stemmed the tide for South Alabama when they were already up 21-0. And then they almost had a pick six and made it 28-0, although App State had another Hail Mary that they got on the board at the end of the first half. But it was 48-14, and I don't think the game was that close. Gio Lopez, 3 games in, I guess, is your leading candidate for Sunbelt Player of the Year. He was outstanding tonight. 16 out of 24 for all of 154 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 7 carries, 105 yards, and another touchdown. Averaged 15 yards a carry. He had a 50-yard touchdown run. Bothwell, what do we say? He was averaging more yards per carry than Gio was per pass attempt. Fluff averaged 8.3 yards a carry. 14 carries, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns. You got to be kidding me. I mean, I don't know what's going on with App State. I mean, South Alabama came in there, went right down the field, and almost like punched the bully in the chops, and App State never got up. They never recovered. Matt Berry talked all game long, for the most part, for what I saw. The lack of rhythm that App State was in throughout the ball game. They just could not get it going offensively. At one point in time, I think I saw South Alabama had scored on like 10 of their last 11, scored touchdowns in like 10 out of their last 11 possessions. Maybe they are better than everybody thought they would be. Although I kind of thought, would they have been? I guess I thought they could have been 3-1 at this point in time. Although I'm not sure I would have had them getting blown out at home against North Texas, 52-38, and blowing out App State on the road, 48-14. No chance. There's no way those two things have happened in less than a month of each other. Like 3 weeks of each other. That could happen. I know Gio Lopez didn't play against Ohio with the turf toe. Certainly doesn't look like he's injured now. They're a good football team. They're a hard-hitting defensive football team. I know Craig Stevenson put it out there that App had a lot of yardage. Again, the pick six was, down at the goal line. So, or, inside the 20. So, App moved up and down the field. They did. App almost had 400 yards, 285 yards, 266 passing. But again, this game was not close. It just was not close. South Alabama dominated from the get-go, going forward on 4th and 1 at their own 36 or 39 yard line and getting a first down on a nice, RPO where Lopez faked the handoff, and he took it around the edge for a first down. Maybe we all underestimated South Alabama. All right. Present company included. Did not think they were going to be this good. And on the other side of things, I think App State's been a huge disappointment. They got embarrassed against Clemson. They have, they bounced back with a nice win over East Carolina. Just because this happened doesn't mean that didn't happen. It did. And they had to use the defense to get it going. But offensively, this just has not been the team that was expected. Kind of as we've mentioned about the Cajuns in previous episodes, they had a workmanlike win over East Tennessee State. Wasn't spectacular, wasn't ugly. It was just good. And they really have not played well since. Again, a bad, ugly loss against Clemson. They did eke out a win against East Carolina. Win on the road is a win on the road. And they just looked awful tonight. And again, this game, the 48-14 ball game against South Alabama, was about as close as the Clemson game. I mean, App State just did not show up. Joey Aguilar not having the kind of season that we all expected him to have. They're having a tough time running the football. And then when you fall behind 14-0, 21-0, 28-0, you are limited to what you can do offensively. You have to pass the ball. You have to try and get back in the football game. And, they hit that Hail Mary at the end of the half, which is all fine and dandy, and we'll make the highlights, and App State's had a bunch. But then did they go 3 and out they went 5 and out to begin the second half. In fact, 5 and out. They got a first down because of the face mask. That's it. So basically they went 3 and out. Aguilar pass complete for 2 yards. Anderson Castle run for 1 yard. Pass complete for Castle for 1 yard. And they're punting away. Actually, they didn't punt. They went for it on 4th down and 6. And Aguilar had to throw it away. I don't know why he would do that, but he did throw it away out of bounds. So a bad loss by App State. And we're not going to talk much about it now, but, for the last year or so, the seat under Sean Clark has been at simmer, whether he deserves it or not. And now it's being turned up to at least low, if not medium, because again, losing is one thing, but losing the way they have, I don't know if they're just unprepared or undermanned or whatever the case may be. And it's one thing to not compete against Clemson. It's another thing to not compete against South Alabama. Or we find out that South Alabama is this dominating team. And again, early on, I know Jordan McLeod's going to have a say. Maybe Marty will have a say. But Gio Lopez is your front runner for Sun Belt Player of the Year. Stats are going to be odd because he throws it and runs it. Fluff Bothwell is going to be your freshman of the year early on. I mean, goodness gracious, he is outstanding. And South Alabama is shocking everybody right now. And they have the first and only win so far this year in the Sun Belt. Everyone is still playing out of conference. And now they get a couple extra days. We'll see if we can get Major Applewhite. It's going to be a big week for him. For those who don't know, Major is from Baton Rouge, and South Alabama is going to play LSU next weekend. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Although Major didn't grow up to be an LSU fan. He grew up to actually be an Alabama fan. But it's going to be a big week. Now they get to enjoy the weekend and watch some college football and get back to work and get ready for LSU, where LSU is playing on Saturday. They got UCLA, although that's not going to be much of a ball game either. They got UCLA on Saturday. So South Alabama gets a couple of extra days to prepare for LSU. But again, that'll be a big week and a nice homecoming for Major Applewhite to Baton Rouge, back to Baton Rouge, right? And now here's the other thing. Again, to think that South Alabama is going to go into Tiger Stadium and win the ball game, I doubt it, but they're going to be able to score. One would think they can score. Gio Lopez is pretty good. We'll see how LSU is going to match up with South Alabama. But Gio Lopez is a dynamic player, and the Jaguars have a good one. In their case, we're hoping for a couple of years, at least for a couple more seasons. All right, let's take a timeout as we will preview the rest of the action when we come back. Again, 6 Sunbelt versus P4 games going on this weekend. And then later on, Troy and Southern Miss need wins. We will do that right after I tell you about eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. All right, Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's look at the this week's, I guess it's week 4. Can you imagine? We're almost going to be halfway through the season, and we're not going to be to October yet because it started in August, right? We got next week is week 5 of the season, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Week 6 is October 5th. That's halfway. The season is almost halfway done. Unbelievable. All right, so we have these big matchups in the Sun Belt. We already previewed Tulane and the Cajuns, so we'll leave that maybe for the end. Okay, obviously a tough road to hoe for Marshall going into Columbus. It's not as if Marshall hasn't done this before, but this would seem to be a very, very tall task, although Charles Huff is asking for or is offering biscuits, all-you-can-eat biscuits, if anybody on Ohio State Spence wants to play for Marshall. Spread is currently 39.5 points. Ohio State is favored by. Total is 52.5, so they're not expecting Marshall to put up all that many points, although they are expecting some. I think the total has actually gone up, and the spread has gone down. There's another, and then the other. There's a couple actually big-time spreads. Obviously, number one team in the nation, Texas, 44.5 point spread over Monroe. That total is only 52.5. And so they're not expecting Monroe to score much at all in this ball game. And I guess we'll see who the quarterback is. I thought it was supposed to be Arch Manning. It could be Quinn Ewers, although playing with a strained abdomen, that doesn't get better. That doesn't get better without rest, I should say, right? So you got, it's not as if it's an injury that you can just deal with the pain and just manage the pain, which maybe you can get a shot for it. Doesn't mean it's going to get better. It doesn't mean it's going to get better. Obviously, another tall task for Monroe. Let's see if they can go in there and compete for a little bit. I know Bryant Vincent wants to compete, see if they can make it a game in the fourth quarter. I mean, they shocked UAB. South Alabama, to me, shocked App State. I can't imagine ULM shocking Texas. Let's see if they can hang around for a half, right? Because some of these games can get out of control very quickly. And then the other big spread went on Stephen Willis's Lockdown Ole Miss show. They're taking on Georgia Southern. Ole Miss is favored by 36.5 points. Total is 66.5 points. So they do think Georgia Southern is going to score in this one. I think Georgia Southern is going to score. I may even pick Georgia Southern to cover, although I don't think I did in this podcast. I would take the over in this one, but we'll get to the over of the game that was played last night. Not happy about it at all. But those are the 3 huge point spreads. Actually, there's another one, which seems a little bit odd. Number 20, Iowa State is 21-point favorites over Arkansas State. Got to see if Jalen Rayner is playing before we bet on that one. But why can't Arkansas State beat Iowa State? Iowa State's got a good defense. They don't have a really big offense. They put up 21 points against North Dakota. They put up 20 points against Iowa. I'm not sure how you're favored by 21.5 points. I guess it was 21, but it's 21 points when that's all you've scored. I wouldn't mind taking Art. You're going to give me 21 points. I'll take Arkansas State in that one. And these, I think, are winnable for the Sun Belt. Coastal Carolina haven't really played anybody, but they got Virginia at home. UVA is a 3.5-point favorite. UVA has played Richmond. They eked past Wake Forest, and they lost to Maryland 27-13. Give me Coastal all day long. All right, don't turn the ball over, and you will win that football game. The other one is JMU going into UNC. I'm not sure if we know about James Madison, which is also what I said about App State, but I'm not going to sit here and told you that I said that South Alabama. I didn't think that South Alabama was going to win. I probably would have bet App State to cover, so I didn't bet that. But I did want. Well, we'll get to what I did bet on a little bit later on. Let's see here. North Carolina. They've beaten Minnesota with a 2-point win on the road. Charlotte 38-20. They're not very good, and they beat NC Central. So I'm not sure we know about North Carolina all that much either. But going to beat Minnesota on the road, that's legit. Whereas James Madison, they beat Charlotte 30-7, and then I don't know what they did. Slept walk through Gardner-Webb 13-6. A little bit lucky to win that ball game. But I think Coastal Carolina can win, and I think James Madison can win. I may actually put the money line down on both those ball games because I think they can compete, although there is some things up in the air. Maybe even do the Iowa State ball game, Iowa State, Arkansas State money line. So that is Arkansas State is plus 1,000. So if I put $10 on it, you win 100. Basically, if you put $100 down, you win 1,000. That's what the plus 1,000 means. It's 10-1 odds. But they have to win, all right? Not any points. Although you give me the points, I'll take that. I won that way last week with Tulane, although I did cash out because I thought they could beat Oklahoma, and I bet the line as well. And then we'll get to – okay, so now we've done all the big ball games. We'll do Tulane and the Cajuns a little bit later on, I guess, in the last segment. Oh, no, we'll do it right now. So Tulane's taking on the Cajuns. No, you know what? Check that. Reverse it. We'll come back. We'll talk Raging Cajuns. They lose a very key player to suspension and just an awful situation. He's let everybody down, including himself. All right. So we'll do that. Plus, Troy and Southern Miss need wins badly. We'll be back right after I tell you about FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little bit different for you now. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Remember, they all count. South Alabama and App State, 62.5. The final was 48-14. That's 62. App State should have scored more points, but South Alabama misses an extra point. That's why they call it gambling. Ouch. That's a hard one. All right. But I'll probably take JMU. I'll take Coastal Carolina. And I'm going to take the Cajuns. I'm going to take the Cajuns at home. We'll get into that right after this. All right. Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. We'll get to Troy and Southern Miss here momentarily. We'll do the Cajuns and Tulane. It's going to be obviously a tough ball game for the Cajuns. It is a new ball game. Cajuns have the advantage of being rested compared to Tulane, who's played Kansas State and Oklahoma last week, and the Cajuns were off last week. The difference is going to be Tulane has been tested, although they failed. They've been tested twice. Should have beaten Kansas State, could have beaten Oklahoma. They have faded in the fourth quarter a couple of times. The refs kind of screwed them, but there was a scoop and score as well. So it wasn't totally the refs. But the Cajuns are going to be without Cortland Flowers. Cortland Flowers was suspended for the remainder of the season due to violation of team rules. Flowers, Kevin Foote reports, was arrested on charges of domestic abuse and battery and child endangerment. Started 10 of 11 games at safety last season before moving down to the star spot for the first 2 games with 1 start. All spring and into the fall, Mike Desimo talked about how impressive Cortland Flowers is. And this is why it's so difficult as a college football or as a coach, period, right? You're counting on young people to do the right thing, whether it's be off the field or on the field. And your success depends on their decisions, whether it is a late hit, a face mask penalty, a holding penalty, a personal foul, or what Cortland Flowers did. And that is obviously much more serious than a bad pass interference call. All right, we hope everybody is safe back in Lafayette. But don't kid yourself. Cortland Flowers let himself down, let his family down, let his team down. And that makes coaching all that much more difficult. I'm still going to take the Cajuns. They're actually plus 2.5 at home. We'll see how good this team is. They played very well against Grambling. They played well against Kennesaw State. They threw it against Grambling. They ran it against Kennesaw State. I don't think Jax Harrington's going to be back, but we'll see if Draylen Washington is going to be back. Still have Zylan Perry and Bill Davis. It is an explosive offense with a very solid defense. All right. And again, the opportunities, what we've been talking about before the season, now into the season, Georgia State took advantage of their opportunity. Texas State did not. App State did not. Here's an opportunity this week and next week for the Raging Cajuns to take advantage of their opportunities. They got the harder game at home. The lesser team, although Power 4 team is on the road, they could absolutely start out 4-0, and they're right in the thick of things for not only a Sun Belt title, although they wouldn't have played a Sun Belt game yet, but for that final playoff spot, because they'll be receiving votes. I'll guarantee you that. They'll probably be receiving votes if they beat Tulane before Wake Forest. And then they go into Wake Forest and beat the Demon Deacons. They'll be getting more votes, if not being in the top 25. Some of that's going to have to depend on some of those top, 21 to 25 teams losing. All right, so the other teams that need a win, and they need a win badly, the Fighting Will Halls. They're going on the road to Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State's just not very good this year. Jacksonville State is favored at home by 6. They got embarrassed by Coastal Carolina at home. They came here to Louisville. Louisville did a number on them, 49-14, and they lost in a close one to Eastern Michigan, 37-34. They are not good defensively, right? They've given up 55 points, 49 points, and 37 points. That's a lot. That is a ton of points. That's almost 150 points in 3 ball games. All right. Southern Miss has to play good at quarterback. They got to get this win. If Jacksonville State, they can put up some points as well, although not as much as we thought. So far, they've put up 27, 14, and 34. So it's getting better, I guess. But maybe that competition got less. South Alabama has to come away with a win. Period. End of story. Got to even up that record at 2-2. Troy needs to get on the board with a victory. Troy is 0-3. All right. We can give you all the reasons that they're 0-3, but they're getting Florida A&M in this weekend. Florida A&M on the SWAC. 24-23 win over Norfolk State. 22-18 win over South Carolina State. Remember, Georgia Southern shellacked South Carolina State last week. And they took one for the team, if you will, getting beat by Miami 56-9. You have to go in. Troy is actually hosting Southern Miss, or Troy is hosting Florida A&M rather, and Troy has to win this football game. Jared Parker has to get his first win against Florida A&M. And in this case, it can be a win and move on. It can be a come-from-ahead victory. I could care less. Troy has to score at least one more point than Florida A&M. I do not care if it's an ugly win. I don't care if it's 10-9. I don't care if it's 51-20. I don't care if it's 2-0. Get the win, and we'll figure out the rest later. Just get that victory. You can't lose to Florida A&M at home. Can't do it. You just can't do it. All right, so more thanks to everyone who tuned in this week. It's probably the biggest week we've had, Lockdown Sunbelt. We'll do as much as we can moving forward with realignment. Obviously, it appears that it's coming. We'll have more people on next week, more games. I think we have a bunch of Sunbelt games next week we'll get into. So that'll be fun. But I believe we just had the biggest week in Lockdown Sunbelt history, and that's because of you people. So I really do appreciate it. Actually had somebody stop by on Thursday, took a tour from Mobile. He was much higher on South Alabama than I was. he was right. I was wrong. They had a good time on the tour. So we're up towards 1480. We had, what is that? That's got to be almost 80 subscribers in the week. We may finish the weekend with 1,500. We're oh so close. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Please subscribe. Please tell your friends because we are having a great time covering the Sun Belt. And maybe we'll do some crossover episodes with some people in Baton Rouge next week. All right. Thanks again for tuning in. You've been watching and listening to Lockdown Sunbelt, your team every day. Enjoy the football, everyone, and have a safe and fun weekend.